All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining the play. Good evening, well, good morning, good afternoon. So today we are going to get started. We are going to be talking about Mesopotamia and the classical Mediterranean societies. So we are going to examine the political standard WH3, which is examine the political, philosophical, and cultural interaction of classical Mediterranean societies from 700 BC to 400 CE AD, as well as we're going to be able to compare the origin and structure of Greek policy, the Roman Republic, and the Roman Empire. Those are the things we're going to be studying today, and you should be able to identify that leader type of important individual. So, what is the question of black Mediterranean society from 700 BCE to 400 BCE? Again, the standard and the learning chart we're going to talk today is standard SWH 3A, and 3B, which is examining the political, philosophical, and cultural interaction with classical Mediterranean, and we'll be able to compare the order and structure of Greek colonies, Roman Republic, and Roman Empire, and identify the ideas of those individuals. So we'll be talking about this week, Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, Augustus Caesar, and Francis. So first one part, I'll just share, you don't have to turn to the one, but tell me if you already know something about these. Tell me what you already learned. So if you already know anything about Greece or Rome, and it could be anything that you already know. What do you already know about Greece and Rome? Have you ever heard of, let me see if I can say this. Julius Caesar or Alexander the Great? Anybody ever heard of Alexander the Great? Okay. And that's fine. I said, well, I'm learning this week about, at the end of the week, you should be able to tell me. And now get the biblical, I get finished the question, I'll pick up. City, take the. Right on CNN there, and then I'll pass out for your activity with that. It's our current news event. I'm gonna pass out our news event. I'll show you how to do it. So you want to pass it over. All right, so on your current news event, extra, you're gonna read listen to the video. On the video, it's gonna be different topics, but you're gonna select one that relates, that gets your interest. So it says, what is the headline of your article about? Is the article controversial, or what do you believe it was written in? And then on the back, you just write a brief summary or reflection about the CNN news. So I'm gonna go ahead and play the CNN news video. Remember to capture something in it. Not that. It should be, but I just played it to make sure. I have to do it from here probably. Because it was just working a little while ago. My apologies. Sometimes technology can be your friend and sometimes it can't be. So just keep in mind, everyone, that you have a different choice board to choose for your selection at the end. You can do a reflection, or you can do a drawing to show me what you mean, or you could just write a reflection about it. So those are your choices to be able to turn in your assignment. So right now, watch CNN 10. We're going to watch that. And again, you're going to pull out key facts or a key article that interests you, and you're going to give me a summary about it. Your interest you, and you're gonna give me a summary about it. You gotta watch for that. Speaking for him. Let's watch this. And also, you see that? All right, so, now we're gonna go back to what we're talking about, which is world history and the Greek Roman Empire. So imagine you're a Roman soldier marching with Caesar's steam legions across the Gaul, or an astronaut floating aboard the International Space Station. What is this scenario that if you are in the army, in the soldier, you're marching with the army across the Gaul, or you're an astronaut floating aboard in the air? Give me some similarities in this scenario. Give me similarities that you think that would have if you are marching in the army, you get ready to cross your station that you're gonna be fighting there, or you are an astronaut floating in space. Yeah. What would be some similarities in that? You still moving, what else? You still trying to achieve something. What else are we think? What else are we doing in there? Breathing. And you're gonna face challenges, right? Because you're far from home, right? Because if you are across the world fighting, you're not close to home, and you're both both of them are relying on systems that developed by civilization. So these are things that can help you relate to what we're getting ready to talk about with our Roman Empire. Now, I know that some of these subjects we talk about can be pretty heavy and be pretty difficult, and they do represent some cultural differences. So always remember to be respectful when we are having these discussions of people's opinions and their thoughts. So with that being said, what health challenges, thinking about that situation with a Roman soldier and an astronaut, what are some of the health challenges that they might inquire or both might face? What are some of the health challenges? If you're on the ground and you're far away from home, marching in the war, or you're in the air floating, breathing. It might have some breathing problems, right? The air quality, what else could be a health challenge? Your family. Being away from your family, right? But health challenge, when you're being away from your family, what does that make you feel? What is it? Sad. So you start dealing with your depression and difficulties like that, right? So those are some of the health challenges that they may have. So the Roman Empire wasn't just about conquest and gladiators. The Roman military position were like Gallagher. They developed the first systematic approach to monitoring soldiers' health during campaigns. So they tracked physical fitness, they managed nutrition, and they treated injuries using organized medical protocols. So what you want to think about in the Roman military medicine structure is their hospitals were in permanent camps, and they had a systematic record keeping of the soldiers' health. And they also did some of the preventive medicine practice. What are some of the preventive medicine things that we do when we feel sick, when we start feeling like we got a cold and stuff? What are some of them? We'll lay down. What are some other things that we do before we get sick? We'll eat soup or hot food, right, to help us feel better so that we won't get all this sick. And then we also have organized medical supply chains that provide our medical supplies. Now, in our space medicine parallels, the healthcare is still monitored. Well, in space, the difference with space is the healthcare is monitored, but it's on a little tracking system where they can see the physiological changes. And then they have preventive countermeasures for health. And then there's also, in space, they have organized medical protocols for space missions. let's talk about today. We're going to focus on 6 different philosophers. So we're going to talk about Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, and Augustine. So who was Socrates? He was an Athenian philosopher, and he lived from 470 to 399 BCE. And he argued that there were no absolute standards for truth and justice, and he encouraged his students to question their assumptions and their values and opinions. So to accomplish this, he developed a teaching method in which he would ask a bunch of leading questions, and they called it a Socratic method. In doing this, he would challenge the students to think of themselves rather than accept traditional understandings of the world. His work proved to be too much of Athenian thought. He was sentenced to death because he corrupted, they said, too many the youth of the Athens. So what did we say that he was again? He was an Athenian philosopher. And what was the main thing that his standards was about? Truth and justice. And he encouraged them to question their assumptions, values, and opinions. And how did he do that, Mr. Conley? Do you remember? What was the method that they called that he used? What was his method? Everything he did was he gave you a bunch of these questions, remember? And he saw that method and he told you to challenge, to think, don't think of yourself, but think of the traditional understanding of the world. That's what he wanted to do. One other question. All right, so for Plato, he lived from 427 to 347 BC. And he was one of his students, and he was responsible for recording many of the teachings. And he also expanded the works of Socrates by continuing to encourage rational thought. This is perhaps exemplified by the cave allegory found in the most famous work called The Republic, and we'll talk about that this week. In the brief passage, he compares the traditions and the superstitions that most people rely on to understand the world. So Plato's The Republic was the dominant philosopher work for 1,500 years. So who was Plato? He was whose student was he? What was he mainly responsible for doing? According to his what? So his teachings, right? According to his teaching. Okay, and what was one of the famous works that he said? It start with R. You said R. I heard it on tongue. What? You had, come on, Mr. Birch, you had. So when you voting, you got the Democrat and then you have who? Okay, so what was the name of that work that he published? You just said it. The Republic. And that work was dominant for 1,500 years. All right, that was so far we done talked about Socrates, we done talked about Plato. Now the third we're going to talk about is Aristotle. He attended Plato's school in the academy, and he went on to found his own school, and he called it the Lyceum after Plato's death. And his work was to collect and categorize all the knowledge wide variety of disciplines from politics, from philosophy, ethics, poetry, astronomy, zoology, and psychology. And his work also laid the foundation for the many studies of many disciplines that we study now. So what was Aristotle? Who was academy he was a part of? Second person to see. Start with a P. Look, there you go. Plato, right? Who was a part of his school? Now back to I'm gonna quiz you. What was the work that Plato produced? Just said. The Republic, right? And so Aristotle, when he came back, and he laid the foundation for the modern study of those disciplines that Plato and Socrates put together. Now, Alexander the Great was a pupil of Aristotle, and he was the prince of Macedonia. His father was Philip. I think you guys studied Philip maybe 2 units ago. But he died shortly after. Alexander the Great became the king of Macedonia, and he announced unified force of Greeks and Macedonians, and that they would invade the Parisian Empire and extract revenge on the Parisian government. So his armies defeated the Parisian Empire, taking control of Middle East and Egypt. And he crossed the Indus River. Remember the Indus River. In his way, Alexander left a series of new cities inhabited by a mix of indigenous people and Greek colonists. Died at the age of 32. So who died at the age of 32? Alexander the Great. Without any heirs, he didn't have any heirs to carry on his legacy. Julius Caesar is our next. And Julius Caesar, anybody heard of Julius Caesar? But you heard of Caesar Valley, right? Haven't heard of it. Well, it's just, what now? Oh my God, Planet of the Apes. But what did he do in Planet of the Apes? He didn't do in the Planet of the Apes. He was a leader of the Apes. So this Julius Caesar is also a leader. He was a leader in the Roman Empire. So he was it's probably similar. They're probably using the name and the similarity. I haven't watched the Planet of the Apes. Oh my God. Because I was in it. That's interesting. No, I haven't caught up on the movie. So it's a new Planet.
It's like
5 series or 5 different ones.
5 different movies.
Okay, I don't know if I can catch it without.
It's like movie for me a different way.
Okay. But he was fighting, but what was he fighting? Is he fighting?
You mean he fighting against a leader, a leader of our thing.
So he trying to become the leader of all the apes, and that's similar to what this Roman Empire, what they're doing in the Roman Empire. They're trying to take over and make sure they unify 2 governments of the republic to bring them together. So that's exactly what Julius Caesar was doing in this time. He used the military to conquer the modern France for the Romans. So you see how they have taken the Planet of the Apes and made it similar to what they would do at that time. All right. So instead of Caesar marching on Rome with his troops, crossing the Rubicon River, and he became political rivals and pressured the Roman Senate to name him a dictator for life. So those are some of the things that he tried to do. And then in March of 44 BCE, the members of the Roman Senate, they assassinated Caesar in an attempt to restore the republic. All right, then the last one was Augustus Caesar. He began his life as an Octavian, and he was the adopted son of Julius Caesar, with 2 other supports of Julius Caesar. But it all fell apart, like his predecessor. It all fell apart because of the political ambition and justice. So the Octavians, they were managed to force one member into retirement and defeated the other into civil war, leaving complete control of Roman in the hands. So the Octavians, they accepted the title that Augustus gave them, which was an exalted one, and became Rome's first empire. So who became Rome's first empire after all the others we read about? Augustus Caesar became the first Roman empire during a period called Pax Romana. And this 207 long year period was considered the high point in Roman political. So how many did we go?
5.
5. All right, we went over what's the crazy. What did you call it? Let's break it down. So 15. Then we got Plato. Then we got Aristotle. Then we got Alexander the Great. And Augustine. Now, out of all those political philosophers, what was their main goal for the Roman Empire? What was their main goal?
Lead to lead the Republic,
To lead them to what?
to lead.
So let's talk about it. Democracy in action. The Greek pilot city statement featured direct citizen participation in the center of decision making. The leaders were often selected by local agencies, emphasizing civic involvement and again, we talked about suppression, the ethical inquiry and the dialect method of questioning. So remember, he told you to come up with a lot of questions and lead them by questions and then challenge yourself and challenge all the questions. That was beautiful. All right, the Roman Republic, they mixed government system. So the Roman Republic featured a mixed constitution with elected magistrates, legislative activists, and popular vote. This system allowed them to develop a really to control the 60-year population. And then Julius Caesar, he expanded the Roman territory and reformed the government, paving the way for the emperor rule. So you see here, this is what the Roman government looked like. This was the citizens here, all males, and you had 300 of the senators. You had 10 tribunes, and then the consul, there was 2 of them that kind of gave the orders out.
What be
Everybody. So in the Roman Empire, they didn't have the in control. They just had the beast. But